Hey, how's it going? I'm just going to run through some side missions. This is some footage that I recorded earlier on, and we're here with a character called Fury, and I think it's nice and early in the morning, and we've got some beautiful sunrise and sort of my favourite little motorbike hacking about. And this is quite interesting, this little bike, because it is a road bike and it's in the dirt, and I was kind of criticising its handling, and you can see that every time I give it power, the back wheel slides out. And that's kind of pretty much how it would be if you did take a road bike in the dirt. So yeah, fair play, they've kind of got that kind of spot on. So what I'm doing here is I'm going through some side missions, and there's quite a few side missions in Breakpoint. And one of the things that I kind of quite like about it, actually, because some of the side missions you pick up from NPCs, well, actually they're all NPCs really. Some of them you pick up from dedicated ones. Sometimes you find them out in the field, literally. Some guys might be doing something and you go and see them and you want to go and check something out. This one's an interesting one because it's about finding a key card, finding what the key card opens. And I think from memory that this is one of a several part kind of series of side missions. And yeah, you know, people criticise and say, well, they're just lots of fetch missions. You know, go here and fetch this, go here and get that. But I'm a Wildlands player, and a lot of the times in Wildlands, it was literally, you know, just for fun. You'd scope a base, as I'm doing here. And no, generally, I normally go, don't use the drone, do everything kind of naturally picking things up, and have the difficulty set to advanced. Here I'm just droning everything because I'm just running through the kind of mission, so I'm not trying to make it particularly difficult for myself, just going through the story. The kind of scenario here is we're going to run through this base, and we're going to collect some well, we're going to get some information from either one of the soldiers, or I think you can sometimes pick them up with like files and stuff. So, and this is the format it often takes. So you'll have a mission whereby you go to this location and you're trying to get some information about the next step. And basically it's kind of go here, clear a base, leave. Go to the next base, clear a base, leave. Go somewhere else, discover this. And they might not be the most exciting side missions on the planet, but as this game, Breakpoint and Wildlands, the whole point of it to me is taking a base, and you can take it several ways, and that's kind of what it's all about. You can take it completely stealthy, you can just snipe everybody out and then creep in and take the evidence. You could go in there all guns blazing, you know, hot as they call it. You could do lots of different ways of taking the base and getting information, and there's different kind of enemies and different things will trigger. Most of the enemies you can take with a shot to the head. The drones you can't, so they can throw the balance a little bit. You can do them at night times with night vision. There's so many different ways you can play this, and that's the fun of the game. If you don't enjoy that, then you're playing the wrong game. Go and play something else, and that's fine. But I personally, I quite like this. So this is the scenario we're in. The backstory to this is, I believe it started off with one of the main characters you meet when you get to Erowin, which is a chap called Mads Schultz, I think it is. And it's the chap with a cowboy hat. And he basically asks you, or he says something along the lines of, there's been a body discovered or a wreck discovered somewhere, go check it out. Which you do, and this leads you to go to a Cold War base, abandoned base or a bunker, and then you're investigating one of his old buddies who he used to be in the forces with, and you discover a body that has a ring on it, and the ring identifies that this is his buddy. But in that bunker, when you go downstairs, you kind of get like an area which is kind of underwater. And you discover on the wall the diagrams and schematics for a nuclear device. And I'm not entirely sure where some of this is set time-wise, I'm guessing, I'm thinking World War II kind of era for some parts of it. So I'm not too sure when nuclear devices were kicking around, but there's this device on the wall. It's supposed to be nuclear, and it's suspected that somebody was going to try and create a dirty bomb. So that's kind of quite intriguing, because you've got kind of Mad Schultz's friend, who I'm guessing they're on the same team when they're in the forces, doing something that's a little bit dodgy on this island, which kind of obviously, to me, seems to have two kind of timelines. One's your timeline now, and one's your World War kind of II, kind of Cold War kind of timeline. And I say that because some of the bases are obviously quite old, kind of like very bunkery style bases, sea defence bases and that kind of stuff. So I find all that quite intriguing. In fact, one of the things I was doing earlier on was hacking around on the bike, and I decided to follow the train tracks. And this is quite interesting because I'm hurrying along on these train tracks, and obviously these are modern train tracks laid by the Scale technology people. There's an electric train that goes around the island, and I'm just hooning along these train tracks, and I noticed that to the left of the train tracks was like an abandoned train track. And it's partly covered with grass and stuff, and I hopped onto this and hacked along for a while, and then it kind of stopped at a ledge, and I came flying off and landed in the dirt kind of thing below, and then it picked off again. So I know people give Breakpoint a hard time, but there's some of the details are really quite good. This is an interesting bit, because if I had just taken this guy out, if he hadn't gone behind that box, I would have taken him out and then no one would have noticed. But going back to the bike, what was interesting is the guys who've done the level design. I mean, obviously it's got lots of highly detailed parts to it, but also this whole thing with the disused railway, I thought was quite clever, because they've had to program it all in, design it all in. There's no need for them to do this. It's just kind of a nice bit of detail that is likely to be there if you're talking about an area or location that has kind of dual timelines. And I thought it was really neat, and this went on for quite a while. I found it in several places, and I was kind of quite impressed with the detail of the design. So that was something I thought I'd mention, something that impressed me. And this game does that. It kind of, it might not be everybody's cup of tea, and people are going to slag it off for whatever reason. But there's lots of things in here that I like. The main thing about it is I really enjoyed Wildlands. This is Wildlands 2 as far as I'm concerned. There's some things in Wildlands that I really like. Like, for example, I would run Wildlands on extreme difficulty, and then I would have like the 3 AI guys with me. So you'd have a 4-man squad. You're going in there. You could play it on extreme quite easily by selecting your other 3 guys to take out different people, and you shoot one person. In fact, some of the missions were quite easy because I had these AI guys, and they were really accurate. So is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I know a lot of people want the AI guys back. With Breakpoint, you come in here and there are no AI guys. I think they're going to be bringing them in the future, because the community's been kind of shouting about it. But there are no AI guys, which means it's just you. And on extreme, it can be really tough. Now, what's interesting is in Wildlands, so you had like you and your 3 AI guys. But if you had a buddy join you, which I had several times, and often just be me and the other person, that 4-man squad went down to a 2-man squad, and your incredibly accurate AI guys, 3 of them, suddenly became one not so accurate mate of yours, and that dynamic really changed things. I haven't played much co-op with this yet. I haven't played it online. I've mainly been just doing the solo stuff, and it's obviously it's much harder. The wolves are quite aggressive, and they will hunt you down. The normal soldiers, I think the normal soldiers are better than the Santa Blanca cartel from Wildlands. I think the wolves are probably more aggressive than the military police. The Unidad, as they were called, they were very good at hunting you. I quite like those. I think these guys are better. in their own rights. And the thing I was going to mention is that you're on your own here, so it's quite tough. So when you get a second person come in with you, even though you haven't got any AA guys to get used to suddenly compare it to a real player, I think co-op would actually make things really interesting. But certainly as a single player, playing on extreme becomes really tough. The guys are okay. You can shoot them in the head and they're down. Even the wolves, they have like helmets on, and some of the guns a lot of the guns actually will actually go through the metal helmet and take them out in one shot. It can be slightly tricky to get on the go once you have them running towards you, but generally it's quite even balanced, I think, on the advanced difficulty. The extreme difficulty is a bit trickier, but good fun. And again, with Wildlands, you know, if you had that on extreme difficulty, you had your AI guys, then that's it. You're on max difficulty, and I was finding that easy unless I made a cock up, and then things could get quite hairy if they're rushing you. And okay, you could do it whereby you, obviously extreme, you don't have the clouds that detect the players around you. So you could have it whereby you're on extreme and you don't drone the area, so you could make it harder that way. But generally, if you're on extreme and you didn't muck up, that's the highest difficulty. In this one, I think extreme is harder than extreme in Wildlands, which is great because you then got some room to move. I quite like using the pistols. The pistols are normally quite quick to reload. There's no sights on them, you can't put a sight on the pistol, so you are limited. I haven't tried it yet, but I'd quite like to try taking a base with just pistol. I've actually done a few of the missions whereby you've got to go into a base and collect something. I've gone in, taken out who I needed to, and then collect the information without making any noise. So I think depending on the base, you could do it complete pistol. Normally it's the snipers and it's normally if you kick it off, if you do something that gets you detected or starts causing a problem, then things can switch pretty quickly. If somebody gets alerted, like for example, quite often you can take somebody out and then your kill will be seen or be witnessed by somebody else. You have a short period of time to take that person out. The same as the reinforcements. If you see one of the guys that has an icon above his head, like a little beacon, that's somebody who, when they get alerted, they will ring or the call for reinforcements. And I think the beacon actually flashes to show you that they are calling, and if you take them out within that time, you can cancel their call for reinforcements in a sense. There's a new patch coming out whereby, because what you'll notice several times I will shoot somebody in the head and they'll go, ugh, or make some kind of like noise, and of course you wouldn't do that if you're shot in the head. There's actually a patch coming out in about a week's time that will actually fix that, so shooting in the head, they just don't make any noise. They don't seem to alert people, which is good, because it'd be really annoying if you shot somebody in the head and then they made a noise they couldn't possibly make, and then that then alerted somebody and then kicked off a whole load of stuff. That'd be a bit annoying. I suspect that this game, because it's got some legs on it regards some of the things that are coming out, like we've got the Terminator coming out soon, and that's going to be interesting. Because this game has some legs to it left, and because they're going to keep refining it, I suspect it might be a game that players who maybe decided not to like it suddenly come back to.
Get ready! We're under attack!
So I think that's pretty much the whole camp taken care of. My map's still got his little red glow pulsating away there, and I think that's because I thought that was because the rocket turret was still alerted, but it doesn't seem to be. I don't know why the prisoners are here. There's nothing to explain why the prisoners are here. Now in Wildlands it would be the rebels in there, and you had a pact with the rebel leader, so you were trying to free the rebels and help them as much as you could do. Now I've got no idea why there are prisoners there and why you should release them. Maybe there's going to be a mission at some point that explains this, but so far just release them because normally they cause chaos, so they could actually be a very good distraction.